Find your fall vibes in Pearland with a full calendar of autumn events. Hike through history from Valentin's Brewing Company to the Old Settler Cemetery on October 25th. And on October 26th, you can kickstart your holiday shopping at the Pearland Boutique Shop and Hop. And enjoy curated menus for a cause the entire month of November for Pearland Restaurant Weeks. Discover Pearland this season, where charm and hospitality meet unforgettable experiences. Get all the details on these events and more at visitpearland.com/to-do. Celebrate Houston's Asian and Asian American communities at Asia Society Texas's free night market. Eat, shop, and explore at the festival's outdoor market of 70-plus local vendors and enjoy live music, a beer garden, carnival games, and dance performances for all ages. I can't wait for this one-night-only night market on Friday, November 1st at Asia Society Texas in the Museum District. Learn more at asiasociety.org/Texas. Today on CityCast Houston, why are thousands of Houstonians still in the dark when it comes to knowing if their drinking water is coming from toxic lead pipes? Plus, we break down the debate between Senator Ted Cruz and his challenger, Representative Colin Allred. And would you eat at every single Chili's in H-Town? Oh yeah, we are going to break that down. Pulitzer Prize finalist Evan Mintz is joining me to recap the news from the week in H-Town. It's Friday, October 18th. I'm Raheel Ramzanali, and here's what Houston's talking about. Hey, Evan, what's up, man? Long time no talk. How's everything going?
It's going great. The weather finally cooled down, and my garden is happy.
I know, but we are in that weird state of weather right now where I'm not sure if I need to turn on the heater or just leave the AC on. So first world problems here.
Yeah, no, I put on a nice sweater in the morning and then like 1 o'clock rolls around and I'm sweating through
it. Hey, earlier this week, I saw this tweet from Houston Chronicle HISD reporter Megan Menchaca about how she and two of her colleagues made it a mission to visit every Chili's in Houston. Chili's, the restaurant, right? And they just wrapped up their tour. So it made me wonder, Evan, is there a chain restaurant that excites you enough to go try every single one in Houston?
Does Benihana count? I am a sucker. My entire family is suckers for teppanyaki, for, cooking on tabletops. So we're really into that. But I love going to Chili's. It is where I go to celebrate my failures in life.
Okay.
Whenever I've gotten dumped, when I took the bar and wasn't sure if I had passed, I go to Chili's. I get like a diabetes in a glass mixed drink, and I just like stuff my face with the burger.
Okay, their honey chipotle tenders are so good. All right. So like I want to give them some prop, and you get like 3 sides with it. So hey, Chili's, keep doing your thing. All right.
No, out of all the middle brow chain restaurants, I think Chili's is absolutely the best.
I love that. And that's a great little assignment there for the Houston Chronicle to go check out every Chili's. Hey, that's when you know you're living life. Hey, Evan, let's get to your big story of the week. We have a lot to talk about. What caught your eye?
Oh, I think the big story this week was the Ted Cruz Colin Allred debate on Wednesday night. And it was a hot one. If you remember 2018, Beto O'Rourke struggled just to stay on his toes against Ted Cruz, who is an excellent dynamic debater and was able to get just a few talking points through. True to form, if you remember that line. But Colin Allred brought out his inner NFL linebacker. I mean, he went blow for blow with Cruz, hammering him for running away to Cancun, hiding in a supply closet on January 6th, smacking him down for laughing about the attack on democracy, and even took on a traditional Republican issue, the border, and pointed out that Ted Cruz likes to dress up like he's on safari when he goes down to the Texas border, but doesn't actually do anything when he's in D.C. So I've got to say, Colin Allred's run a very kind of mild campaign, though the polling's been all right for him. But to see him really get riled up on stage, I think he captured a feeling that a lot of Democratic voters share when it comes to Ted Cruz.
Yeah, that line, all hat, no cattle, is definitely going to be one that we remember whether he wins or loses the race, because that was a marquee moment. But in defense of Beto, there was more to talk about this time, right? Like in the last 6 years, there has been so much that Ted Cruz has done where you go, well, now I can point things out that are really, really high profile, like the trip to Cancun, of course, January 6th. So it was good to see Colin Allred like point these out. But will any of this matter? Because after the debate, right, you look at it, if you were going in and you were going to be voting for Colin Allred, guess what? You're going to be voting for him. I'm talking about people who were on the fence. Do you think that's going to sway anybody, the debate?
I never know what it is that motivates voters, especially if you're undecided at this point. But you bring up all the things that have happened over the past 6 years. If you kind of want a Republican senator up in Washington, one of the most important things about Ted Cruz is what he hasn't done. He's had 2 terms, 12 years up in D.C. What has he delivered for Texas? And the answer is not a lot. Texas Monthly had a good profile on him in their October issue, just pointing out he's on his own podcast 3 days a week. He's not passing any major legislation. Other Republicans don't really like him. I mean, already you could tell from his face he does not like Ted Cruz, but he's not the only one. Mitch McConnell, the Republican Senate Majority Leader, is not sending funds down to help Ted Cruz's campaign. He's being cut off. And why? They don't like him. He is a net negative in D.C. for them. So to see this interesting left-right coalition of people who really don't like Ted Cruz, that's the sort of thing that makes you think, if you want generic Republican up in D.C., if you want your John Cornyn's up there, maybe you could say, hey, I'll vote for Colin Allred and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's been the one thing with Ted Cruz, like not digging into every single vote, not digging into all the policies, as a Texan, as a Houstonian, just looking from the outside in. Ted Cruz cares about Ted Cruz. That's been my biggest takeaway. And that's it, right? And I like seeing it being pointed out by the opposing candidate. One last thing on the debate. Was there any takeaways from the debate on how the next senator is going to impact Houston?
That was kind of disappointing because I didn't get too much on that. I didn't get any mentions of the Ike Dike. I didn't get a lot of mentions about those issues specific to Texas. A lot of it felt very high level, but this is a city that thrives on immigration. And so you just get a sense that Colin Allred's going to be better on that. Colin Allred also had some great points about how we need to build when it comes to affordable housing. And Ted Cruz put the blame for housing unaffordability on immigrants, which I think is just trying to find a target to blame rather than solving the underlying issues.
Perfectly said, Evan. All right, I'm going to get to my big story of the weekend. Nearly 4 years ago, the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, directed all utilities in the country to check their drinking water systems and see which ones were using lead pipes or might have been contaminated with lead pipes. Well, the deadline to report which pipes were lead has come and gone. And guess what, Evan? Thousands of people in Houston and Texas still don't know if their drinking water is coming from lead pipes that can have serious health risks in adults and children. If a kid is exposed to lead, which is a toxic metal, it can damage their developing brain and cause problems with speech, hearing, learning, and more. And then for adults like you and me, it can put us at a higher risk of heart disease, high blood pressure, and kidney problems. And yet we still don't know.
No, I'm kind of glad that we're finally having this conversation, but it's so interesting how you have debates about things like your RFK Jr. style arguments about vaccines and poison in food. Like there is lead in pipes right now. Like we can all agree that we should be getting lead out of pipes. And I was reading the city of Houston's recommendations on how to check if you have lead in your pipes. You put magnets against the metal to see if it sticks or not. You have to see if it's plastic or not. That's kind of an obvious one. You scratch it to see if it's soft. Lead is soft. And so this is a thing that you can get in your own hands to figure out for yourself. But I don't think folks have ever been told, hey, go check to see what your pipes are made out of.
Yeah, a lot of it is being put on the citizens themselves to figure it out. And the Houston Landing actually broke it down, like why this is happening is one factor is that so much time has passed since the original lead pipes are installed. And we just don't have complete records from the water system to know if your house is being fed water from these lead pipes. And another big challenge is about who owns the water line, right? Like here, the utility and the property owner usually split ownership of the water line. So utilities generally own the segment of pipe connecting their water main to the water meter, and the property owner has ownership of the pipe from the water meter to the actual building. And this is where all the confusion is happening.
It's also fascinating, but you're right, these things are really old. I remember reading that the city of Houston found some pipes in the middle of the city in District C that were made out of wood, like not just lead, wood pipe. So we have stuff that's going back not just decades, but centuries.
It's so scary because you want to be able to protect yourself from dangers like this. But even if you do know at your house, we have seen that there is lead contamination at HISD schools. Mm-hmm. And one thing that's supposed to be fixed with the $4.4 billion bond proposal on the ballot are these pipes. And by the way, if you want to hear the pros and cons of the $4.4 billion bond, we have an episode published that you can check out. And I've also linked it in our show notes. Researching schools for my kids was important to me and my wife. And if you're currently doing that, then I have another option in education beyond the traditional offerings for your family. Check out The Village School. It was named a top 20 best private school in America by niche.com and offers pre-K through 12th grade. The Village School curriculum is rigorous and focuses on STEAM. That's a combination of science, technology, math, and the arts, so students are prepared to accomplish great things in their personal journeys. Want to see if the Village School is right for you and your student? Join them on November 8th at 9 a.m. for their open house, where you can tour the campus, meet with faculty, and see how you fit into their incredibly diverse community that has more than 90 countries represented. Register for the open house at thevillageschool.com. Again, their open house is on November 8th, and you can register at thevillageschool.com. Moody Center for the Arts at Rice University connects people and ideas through free art exhibitions and events. In October, the Moody's programs include Chef Chris Shepard, origami master Kyle Fu, artist Lucy Kim, and Rice University researchers in neuroscience, anthropology, and history. The Moody is one of my favorite places in Houston to find some creative inspiration, from their incredible programs like the ones I just mentioned to all of their art exhibitions on view, and of course their public art like the Terrell Sky Space, which is even more awe-inspiring with these intense fall sunsets we're getting. Explore the intersection of art, craft, and science at the Moody. Register to attend free events at moody.rice.edu. That's moody.rice.edu. And follow them on Instagram at The Moody Arts. I'll see you at the Moody. All right, Evan, let's get to our most overlooked stories. What you got for me?
The most overlooked story in Houston is that we have a new proposed sidewalk ordinance. The specific language was released yesterday, and this happens after a controversial effort to poke holes in the city's already weak sidewalk ordinance, but those failed a few weeks ago, and now they're back. It is another attempt to add more exemptions that would allow landowners to get away with not building sidewalks. And I just want to remind folks, sidewalks only work as a grid. You can't leave it up to a lot-by-lot decision. The sidewalk won't work that way. In most other cities, the government builds the sidewalks, but here in Houston is the responsibility of the landowner. But this has led to a bunch of weird circumstances where people are building sidewalks or not building sidewalks, and you can go through neighborhoods and see these odd strips that are isolated from everything else, or running into fences, or just not set up in any sort of organized way. And so the response to this bad system is to just make it easier to not build sidewalks. That is not the answer. What Houston needs is a sidewalk bond to fund construction and maintenance of sidewalks in critical areas. There's going to be virtual and in-person meetings the rest of the month to talk about this effort to poke more holes in our sidewalk rules. So you can check it out at letstalkhouston.org.
I also saw on the Houston Chronicle's website that nearly 40% of Houston sidewalks are rated subpar, and you can even go through and check how bad are the sidewalks in your neighborhood if you're not walking them, right? Like, you should kind of already know. But yeah, I mean, like the sidewalks to nowhere, sidewalks that just are not connected to the system. It's so frustrating for Houstonians and people who rely on these sidewalks to have a safe option to get to wherever they're going, whether it be school, work, a friend's house. Just to not have that and not have the city focus on it more is so scary.
And given how many crashes we have that put pedestrians in hospitals, in the morgue, you would think we would want to build the infrastructure gets them out of the street and onto the sidewalk. But we aren't prioritizing that as a safety issue. I mean, Houston has two paths forward. You can either look like Bel Air, which doesn't mandate sidewalks, where you see people regularly pushing strollers in the middle of the street, or you can be like West U, where the city does prioritize sidewalks, and you see all sorts of kids walking around on sidewalks, having their lemonade stands, living a safe, healthy life.
So this new ordinance, are you for it or against it?
I am against it, but I think we really need to dig into the specifics and see what's going on here. I'm against any effort that makes it easier to not build sidewalks. I think Houston needs to prioritize it. The mayor has pointed out that it doesn't feel fair that we have large stretches of the city that just don't have any sidewalks at all. But the way you get at that is by building sidewalks, not by not building sidewalks.
So number one, if there was a bond, right, that would get this sidewalk project going, that would be a great start. Number two, is it almost like putting a sidewalk guru in charge of this, who literally just goes around and goes, look, guys, this is how we're going to do this, and this is the easiest way forward?
I mean, I think you just need someone to sit down and say, if you want the city to build sidewalks, you really just can't build them everywhere because the city is so huge. Mm-hmm. But there are key corridors where people are walking or should be walking. There are key connections that need to be made, intersections that could be safer. Because if you have a long sidewalk that suddenly gets to a 6-lane road with a terrible crosswalk, like all of that sidewalk that you've built really isn't useful. So it's identifying ways to get the most out of the system we have now.
All right, I'm going to get to my most overlooked story of the week, and this is a really hard one. So if you do have children in the car, then right now would be a good time to hit pause and then come back to this episode a little bit later when you're alone. So the Heights community is still grieving after the murder of Krista Gilley, who was 9 weeks pregnant with her third child. On Monday, October 7th, her husband, Lee Gilley, called 911 and said his wife overdosed and killed herself. But then the medical examiners found that her injuries were consistent with strangulation. So now he's been charged with capital murder. And this, Evan, is sadly another example of the dangers of domestic violence and how we need to all be vigilant in protecting people in our communities and families from violence. And I can't stop thinking about the two kids who lost their mom and baby sibling. Krista was a physical therapist in Houston, and her family described her as a happy and loving mom. And I saw her coworkers also echo those sentiments, and it's just heartbreaking. And you truly saw the impact that she had on her community in the Heights when hundreds of people showed up for a vigil this week as well.
It really is a sad story. Society has made major strides in pushing domestic violence into dark corners and saying that this is not acceptable behavior. But we haven't stopped everything. And there's more research to be done on the policies that you can put in place into building safer communities and safer neighborhoods. But sometimes, within the four walls of the home, I don't know what you can do in these sorts of situations. It's just so tragic. It's just so awful.
And if you know anyone that is experiencing a difficult situation or you're worried about a loved one, there are resources out there. So make sure you take full advantage of them, like the Houston Area Women's Center. So speak up, please, please, please be vigilant. This is just so heartbreaking, so heartbreaking. I love a good show, and right now at Stages Houston, it's a great time to grab your crew and check out their newest production at the Gordy Theater. It's a fresh take on an iconic duo, Miss Holmes and Miss Watson, Apartment 2B. It's on stage starting October 25th through November 17th. If you're a fan of Sherlock Holmes or love a good comedy, this one's for you. You can enjoy a signature cocktail or mocktail from the Gordy Bar and be transported to a modern-day Baker Street. We hope you have a bloody good time at the theater. Get your tickets now, and for the best prices, groups of 6 or more save up to 30%. Head to stageshouston.com to get your tickets for Miss Holmes and Miss Watson Apartment 2B. That's stageshouston.com.
business, service is everything. Cintas delivers what you need to better serve your customers. Whether it's freshly laundered work apparel for almost any job imaginable, tested and inspected fire protection systems, first aid and safety supplies, on-site AED training, or mops and restroom products, stocked and ready when you need them. Better work days happen together. So visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
All right, Evan, that was really tough to talk about. So let's try to end on a positive note and celebrate life in Houston. What's your moment of joy this week?
Well, I am happy that early voting starts on Monday. I'm always excited to vote, particularly in Harris County when we have so many races to vote for, so many judges. So go check out your closest voting location and countywide voting center at harrisvotes.com. If you need help deciding who to vote for, go to the Houston Chronicle endorsements list. Even if you don't agree, they will explain why they're endorsing one candidate over another. I know folks usually like to vote straight ticket Democrat or Republican, but when you go down that ballot, there's always some judges, always some constables, always somebody where you can say, my side put up a pretty bad candidate this year and the other person's pretty good. I can cross over for this one. So I would challenge you to find that one race that you can cross over for. You can also get more information on the candidates at the Houston Landing and the League of Women Voters.
And if you want more information regarding polling locations, if you're not in Harris County, votetexas.gov has a lot of information. So wherever you're listening around the city, we got you covered with that. And then we also have you covered with the HISD bond. We have an episode on that. And Evan, you mentioned the voter guide at the Houston Landing. Well, on Monday, we're going to have a civics throwdown with the reporter who wrote that guide to see how ready I am to vote. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And you can play along. It's going to be a quiz style. It's the ultimate civics throwdown, and you get to see me get dunked on, okay? Because look, I'm taking on a tough opponent, but I'm ready to learn as well. So get out there and vote early. Do not complain about the lines come November. Please get it done now. The lines are going to be easy. They're going to be short, hopefully, in this early voting period. So please, please, please get that done.
Yeah, you get a free sticker. So go get your sticker.
Absolutely. For me, my moment of joy, I am so excited because I'm finally going to have some time this weekend to watch the new 6-part PBS series called Chasing the Tide, where Chrissy and Jay Clayburgh walk the entire Gulf Coast in 21 days and chronicle the different regions of our coast and talk to people in this incredibly thorough documentary. The documentary took a full year to edit, Evan, and they did an episode on Galveston where, yes, they talked to people about the Ike Dike. Yes, they got it done.
I'm so happy. I am so happy. I just finished reading the Pulitzer Prize winning book, Gulf, The Making of an American Sea, about the Gulf of Mexico and its history. And now I can't wait to watch this documentary.
I can't wait because I know after I watch it, I'm going to want to do this walk. Like they literally walk the entire Gulf Coast. I love the Gulf Coast. Like if I could work on the beach somewhere, I would do it in a heartbeat. And I would love to even just take a boat and travel the entire coast. So I am hyped for this documentary. It's been on my list and I finally have some time. And I love seeing people do projects like this, shining a national light. This is going to be on PBS, not just locally, but all over. It's on their app as well. So I love people shining a national light on such an important coast for our nation.
Mm-hmm. So much food, so much commerce, so much culture comes from the Gulf. And so it deserves more attention, I think, than it currently gets. And here we are.
Evan, thank you so much for joining us. That was a lot of fun, a lot of information, and get ready. Early voting starts Monday. Put it on your calendars. Have a great weekend, Evan.
I'll see y'all later.
That was Evan Mintz. I've linked all the stories we discussed in our show notes. Hey, a big thank you to everybody who shared CityCast Houston with their friends this week. We truly appreciate it. And if you haven't, end the week by sharing this episode with a friend so they don't miss out. That will do it for this week here on CityCast Houston. Our producers this week were Elizabeth Kama and Carleon Jones. Our newsletter editor is Brooke Lewis. Our executive producer is Laura Eisensee, and I'm your host, Raheel Ramzanali. Our music is by the band All the Kimonos. We'll be back on Monday with a civics throwdown that will get you ready for early voting. Thank you for listening, and I hope you learned something new.
Yeah, I splurged on the high-end Wi-Fi for the hotel room.